I should be working, but you don't know what's going to happen in life. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, right? You don't know if you're going to wake up. So on this cold, dreary Monday in early March, it's supposed to be warm and it snowed. I figured, why not go to the movies? So I suppose after the big Oscars win for Anora, I figured why not see that. Comes in at about 2 hours and 20 minutes, which I think is probably pushing it a little bit. I mean, The Brutalist is 3.25. I haven't seen that yet. I think in 90 minutes or 120 minutes, you can kind of tell me what you need to know. But nevertheless, this will be my third Sean Baker film. I've seen The Florida Project, which I liked. I saw Takeout, which is on Criterion Collection. I loved Takeout. And I love Takeout as well. Tonight, Anora. Let's go. So I just got out of Anora, and I need to think about this. So let's go to the studio. Okay, so I wanted to come back to my studio to talk about Anora because I wanted to sleep on it. I wasn't sure. It ended on a fantastic note. The last scene for me was really interesting. The sound, fantastic. Now, was everything leading up to that interesting is the question. I think that it was, but I want to break it up into basically 3 parts. The first part, say the first hour, my face was like this. I can't not only relate to the characters in this, I couldn't relate to them when I was 22. And, I just find that whole party scene annoying, personally, in general. But, there's kind of an interesting thing that happens in it, which is it's a setup, right, for the second hour, which I started to think, this is my second take, which is, okay, this is getting more interesting. And then the third part, the final part, is the last scene, which I thought was very interesting. I'm still thinking about it, but the courage to end it that way with the sound and everything, I loved it. I thought that part was great. In that last scene, there's a moment where she's in the car looking at him, and they're looking at each other. And it's almost like he's got some sort of wisdom, like he's just kind of waiting for her to do what she eventually does, at the very end, I mean. And you get this look in her eyes of, almost like there's a structure to who we are, and then there's all this sawdust that kind of gets piled on top of it, and we sort of take on these other personas and trends and ideas about what we should be or what we are. But then you get the feeling that he's looking at her, and she's finally getting it at the end of like all the sawdust is just like whew, just blown away, and you're left with the wood, the cut, the wood, everything. But there's you clear that all away, all the outside stuff, what you do, where you went to school, where you grew up, all that stuff, and just who you are was exposed at the end, which I loved. It took a long time to get to it. One of the things I really loved about it as well is it doesn't just have an indie short film feel. It is an indie short film. I think the budget was, $6 million, which by comparison to, let's just say the other nominees in the category of Best Picture. So I love that this kind of movie can win. And also I'm a 90s kid, and indie films were hot back then, right? So you love to see indie films do this. And I appreciate that the Academy and sort of the response to it has been very positive, given the feel or the I don't want to say simplicity because that sounds like a knock. I don't mean it in that way, but I mean it as a compliment. I'm a minimalist, so in a simple way is very great, and it was impressive. It's funny how you sometimes shape an idea of what a movie is if you know too much about it beforehand. I'll give you an example. I've seen a few Sean Baker films. I saw Tangerine, which I liked. Florida Project, which I thought was good, but, whatever. Takeout, which I loved, and it's on Criterion Collection if you want to watch it on their streaming. That budget was, by the way, was $3,000. $3,000! Can you imagine? I think it's great. I love Takeout. And then this one, which was $6 million. Now for Takeout, I didn't know anything about it. I just put it on and I watched it. If I had seen Anora the same way, I think I probably would have been into it more, just because there weren't all these preconceived ideas about expectations or things like that. I went into Anora after it had won Best Picture, so you get these ideas about what a Best Picture should be. Like what last year was Oppenheimer. What's the production cost and the spectacle and all the well-known actors and everything around it. It does and it doesn't matter at the same time. When you talk about budget and the resume of the actors carrying out the project. But I think I definitely liked it. I'm still going to have to think about it as to whether I think, if you look at all the best, and by the way, there's a lot of things that have won Best Picture that I think are garbage, and I won't go into it. But you sort of think to yourself, like, this is the one that people are putting up on a pedestal, and I'm glad they did that for this one, and I enjoyed it. I think it's definitely a positive, but I would hesitate to give it a rating. If you asked me to give you a rating, it would just say N/A, not available at the moment. I need to think about it for a while, maybe see it a second time. I'm not sure. I will say that besides the ending scene, my favorite scene is when Toros was in. Sorry, I don't want to give it away a spoiler. This is not really giving anything away, but when one of the characters is in a diner and they're searching for someone, and he's going up to different booths of youth who are at the table, and he's like, "I don't get it. I don't what's wrong with your generation. I worked since I was 16 all day long. You're tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock." I thought that was a great moment. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to take from it. I thought everyone did a great job. Yeah, that's my take on Anora. Did you see it? If you're out there, I'd love to hear what your thoughts were. Forget about, if you thought that it deserved it or didn't deserve the Best Picture, lay it on me. But for the most part, that's just one lens, right? No pun intended, to see a film. Did you think it was good, basically? I thought it was good. There's a lot of sex. Not a bad thing. But it's a world that I don't really connect with. And I wouldn't have connected with that world when I was 22. I wasn't a party person when I was 22 either, But you go into a world. It went on for maybe a little bit longer than I would have cared for. And movies are so long nowadays, you know what I mean? Like, this was 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is, it's a long time. What did you think? Put it below. Let's talk about it. I want to hear from you, because I really do like having a conversation below, what your thoughts are. Not necessarily on what I said, but just what you think, Put it below. All right. Until next time.